Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to remove a mower blade out of that lawnmower, then sharpen it and balance it and then reinstall it. So we'll just get right to it. Okay, I'll just put the camera over here and make sure I can get you in view here. And what we're going to do is we're going to tip this, we're going to tip it over on its side, over on the gas tank side rather than on the oil filler side. And that way I can actually drain the old fuel out at the same time. I've actually already drained the fuel out of this one, so I don't need to do that this time, but that's generally what I'll do. I'll just remove the gas cap, and then usually by the time you're sharpening blades, you probably want to change the fuel anyway, so it's a good time to do that. Otherwise, that fuel is just going to drain out right through the air cleaner. And you want to tip it either on that side, or typically I like to actually just tip them backwards, and then I just support the front with a block of wood or a few blocks of wood. And then that way you don't have to worry about gas leaking out or oil leaking out. But for the sake of this video, it's just a lot easier for you to see what I'm doing if I just tip it on its side. There isn't a whole lot of much view for you, not much for you to see if I tip it up this way. Okay, so we'll just do that. I'll just be tipping it over on its side. The first thing you want to do is disconnect the spark plug wire. Always disconnect that spark plug wire, because especially when you're working on these things and you're changing the mower blade, even with those blade brakes, you just never know. It could, or even with the old lawnmower, they can just always start up on you by accident when you're rotating the motor and you work on those mower blades. So okay, we'll just get that mower blade off of here, and then we'll step into the other shop and where the grinder is. Okay, so let's see. I think you'll be able to see that from there. So let's see. I'll tip this thing over. Got the gas cap off. Maybe a little bit of remnants of fuel left in there. And then that way that any fuel that's left in there will just drain out. Let's make sure that you can see that. Okay, that looks good. Usually I would use this, because all I really need to do is just grab onto that blade and hit it with that impact gun. But I'm assuming you don't have an impact gun. And so without that, it can be a real challenge. So what I'll do is I'll grab a socket, and I'm going to grab a pipe here. And then what I'll do is we need to find a way to hold that secure. And you're not going to be able to do that very good with just your hand. Anytime I'm working on mower blades, I always put some thick gloves on, because after you sharpen that thing, it can really cause some damage to your skin. So make sure you have some good thick gloves, leather gloves, whatever works for you. And then now we need to find a way to block this. And the best way to do is just a block of wood. But every mower is different. You know, some of them have different guides here to direct the grass out the side or whatever. But at some point they have, it's, you know, you're going to tighten it clockwise. So righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So you're going to loosen it this way. So we're going to be moving the blade. So if I try to loosen that right now with this guy, let me see if you see that in there. Okay, you can see that. If I try to loosen that blade's just going to spin. And I can't really hold it with my hand. Now I could put my foot down there, but a lot of times these things have just been on there for a while. Now, what you could do is just before you eat your lunch or before you eat your breakfast, is go ahead and just squirt that with a little penetrating oil, and then let it soak while you're eating your lunch or your breakfast or your dinner, whatever it might be. Then, since this one has a rear chute on it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this block of wood. This is a piece of 4x6, and the 2x4 will do the job. And I'm going to shove that right in there, just like that. Then that guy's locked in place. Then I could take this just like that. Now I can hold it with my hand. See? Or I can even, if I have my other socket up there, or my ratchet, I don't have the big one, but I have the small one. So I can just take that now. There we go. Now it's backing off real good. So make sure you keep that retainer. It's kind of like a washer, but it has a couple little lock pins on it. So it has a couple little locking pins on it that go into those little holes. So I'm just going to set that aside right there. I'm going to take that block of wood. I'm going to put it down like that. I'll grab that like that. Now I have this pipe here because a lot of times you can't get those undone as easy as that one went, especially if they're on older mowers and the blade hasn't come off in a long time. So I just do that to give myself a little bit longer lever um, to be able to pry with. You'd be surprised how much easier it is with that. So I'll just put these right here. We'll grab the blade, and then we'll walk into the other shop, and then I'll get the camera lined up. Um, let's see here. We'll head out here, and I'll set the camera right here. Let's see. Can you see there? Okay, I think you can see it all there. All right, I think we got you set up. Okay, so yeah, you can see me there. So one thing that's really important to know is that you only want to sharpen one side of this blade, and it's the top side. Where you see that bevel on there? That's the top of the blade. So that always goes up towards the motor. And this always, the flat part, this piece here, this side, that's the bottom side. So that'll sit in there like that. And it works more like a chisel. Now you can see these little divots in the blade, all these little divots that happen basically from hitting rocks and things like that. Okay. What I want to do first is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the balance of this blade. I want to see which one's the heavier side and which is the lighter side. And I'm going to start grinding on the lighter side. That way, the heavier side is just going to automatically need to be ground more. And I don't want to start with the heavier side, end up then sharpening the lighter side, and then come to find out I have to take more off of the heavier side and have to put a new edge on it. So see if I can get here in the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to grind this level all the way across here, and just going to remove all of those little divots. We want to go all the way down to the deepest one. So what I'm starting with is I'm going to start with a nice flat line. I'm just going to get rid of every bit of that. I'm not going to start grinding a bevel on there until I get a nice straight flat line all the way across there. And a lot of people will use, we'll put them in a vise. Back in the 70s, when I was a teenager in high school, well, even in junior high, I worked for our local equipment rental outfit, and much of what I did was sharpen blades. That was a big part of my job. Get the mowers in, service them, get them ready to head out the door again, and part of that was sharpening and balance the blades. But we had I think we had like a 10-inch grinding wheel. Back then, we didn't have these little angle grinders. We could hold on to them with one hand, so we had to put that in a vise. And then hold on to that big grinder. I don't like doing it that way though, because um, it's always an awkward thing. You can't really see the bevel very good. I mean, it's a safe way because then you can put two hands on the grinder. But I'll show you how I do it. That just works out pretty good. Um, and that's basically holding the blade by hand and holding the grinder by hand. So, but if we start first by checking the balance of that blade. Okay, so we know this is definitely the heavier side. Even if we cheated that way a little bit, let's see if it's still the same. So these don't actually have a circle in the middle. So you sort of have to work with a little finesse to get it to line up on one of these little steps on the pyramid there. And then it just pivots on this little pin here. So you really sort of have to, John Deere's are one of the worst for finding a way to get them to balance or to sit on here properly. This is actually a Craftsman mower, but the John Deere Riders are some of the worst. So that's actually not too far off balance. So I'm gonna get that out of my way. And so what I do is I don't use a grinding disc. Okay, I use what's called a flap disc. Okay, these are just all little separate pieces of like sanding paper, but it's for metal, and it's just going to give you a lot better finish, and it just works really really good. And with the grinding wheels and the cutting wheels, they do have a tendency to break. I haven't had one break on me in quite a long time, but when they do, That's one of the reasons why I wear this vest. There's so many things when working on mowers and tractors that can hurt you, but grinding wheels, when they break, boy, they can do some damage. And if I was using a grinding wheel, it'd be smart if I actually had a face shield on rather than just the reader, the safety readers, we'll call them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just first start by just running this across so everything is nice and flat on both of them, and then I'll proceed with my grinding the edge. So we'll just do that first. You can watch the direction of the spark. When I'm going this way, the sparks are going that way. When I go this way, the sparks are going behind me. You got to make sure you don't have anything in the way, like a tank of gasoline. You might be able to see there how it's kind of easy, where you can see where I've ground down the edge, but you can see where I still have a little divots. Now, if you have large divots and you want to save the blade you have, then it doesn't make sense to grind all the way down to the end of those divots. You just take it down until you have a clean enough edge, um, and then you just have to deal with the fact that it has big divots. So it just depends on whether you're trying to salvage an old blade or not. You don't want to remove too much of this material here, you lose your strength. So we'll just take out a little bit more of that, and then we'll do the other side. Also, on all these blades, you can see right where the factory edge stops, and it stops right there. And if you keep an eye on what that factory edge is, you basically just sharpen right back at that same angle. If I have really thick grass with a lot of rocks and things like that, then I will take and I'll leave a pretty steep angle on it. But if it's just easy grass, it's just nice lawn, it doesn't have a bunch of rocks or anything like that, then it'll be a much more shallow angle and be sharper. But if I'm going through a lot of really thick stuff, then the angle has to be really steep, and that way it kind of creates more of a blunt edge. But it's still sharp, but it'll last you a whole lot longer, especially if you're trying to mow rocks. Okay, so we're just going to keep basically that factory edge. I usually maintain around a 30-degree angle on all of it, regardless of what the factory edge was. It's just by habit. So again, I'll go back over to the other side now and clean those off. It doesn't go hurt if you go past. It doesn't hurt at all if you go past that. I go past it a little ways just to get it all cleaned up. And I'm not going to take it all the way down to the end of those divots. I'm not too concerned about that. So I think I'll take this one down just a little bit farther. Okay, then after that, again, I'm going to check, see which one's the lighter side, and that's the side I'm going to want to start with. So we'll try to get that balanced on there, get it centered the best we can. I can see that's pretty well balanced already. It's a bummer because we're going to wreck that. So then what I want to do is then I'm going to set my blade about like that. And what that's going to do is almost sets this angle that we want. It almost sets it parallel. And that's sort of what I'm looking for. And that way, I can tip it like this, and it makes that about a parallel surface there. So I'm just going to hold that with one hand. And you might want to put it in a vise. So if I put this in this vise right here, like that, then I would just take and I would grind it like this. But you see how, for me, that's just awkward. So, but you can obviously do what's most comfortable for you and the safest. And sometimes it's more safe just to clamp your material down until you get used to doing it. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here from where the factory edge is, and that way sort of gives me an idea of what angle it was, and then I'll just maintain something close to that. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just mowing your grass. Well, as long as you have a nice sharp edge to it, regardless of the angle. Again, the steeper the angle, the longer that edge is going to last. The more shallow, the sharper your blade is going to be, and it's going to cut the grass a lot easier. But it won't cut rocks easier. You'll just lose the edge much quicker. So here we go. And you see, I try to maintain strokes. I don't want to grind in one spot like that, because then you just get waves. So I just want to start there and just continue out with these strokes like that, all the way to the end of the blade. And sometimes, depending on how much it's worn, I might even come out all the way to that edge of that blade and end up doing a little radius there just to get some sort of edge on it. And I might have to do it like what I'm doing here, just where I get to the divots. I will go back and forth a few times just to clean that divot up. And then I'll come back with a long stroke. And then the only time I touch the bottom side of the blade is just to take those burrs off. I just do it real lightly. And there we go. That's one side already done. We'll go ahead and do this other side. And clean up that end there. And once I have everything where I like it, then I'll just come back with the long strokes and make sure everything's nice and smooth all the way across. And I'll just touch up the back side, just clean it up a little bit. There. That's all there is to it. And I'll double check for level or for balance. Do it on the back side here. Have to make sure that's actually lined up. Again, like I said, this is not easy with these types of blades. Yeah, so that's showing that it's heavy on this side. So once you see that, you have to figure out where it's going to be the best to take the material off to lighten it up. And I just take nice long strokes here. Try it again. Almost. Again, it's just really hard to get this one lined up. There we go. Yeah. See, so I would call that balanced. Yeah, that's pretty gosh darn balanced. And that's all there is to it. And then all you have to do to reinstall it is just in reverse. But you could see how dangerous that is with that being that sharp. So let's go back in the other room and we'll just reinstall this blade. Okay, let's see if we can get you lined up here. There we go. Okay, so it's just going to be the same in reverse. Now you could see how, if I didn't have my gloves on, trying to hold on to that thing, yeah, that's really sharp. I mean, that's like a hatchet edge right there, especially with those flap discs. Hi there. Those flap discs really put a nice sharp edge on that. So this is where you really have to be careful. Don't think that this thing can't cut you, because When they cut really bad and they cut really deep. And, so one thing I want to do is I'm going to grab a wire brush. So I'll be right back. It's just going to be right in here. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So we got just a little wire brush. We'll take and we'll dress or clean up this side right here. That way we get any grass off of there, any rust and grass off of there. And if you have any grass buildup too on these things, you want to clean that off too, because that can affect the balance reading. And if they're really dirty, I'll actually just take that flap disc and brush it off real clean with the flap disc. Okay, so right here is where I'm really concerned about though. So we'll take and get all that rust cleaned up. There, we'll do that. And then we'll grab a little rag and the penetrating oil. And I'll just go ahead and hit this with a little penetrating oil as well. That way that rust will stay away. And then I'll clean up the backside of this little washer guy. Again, just clean up all that rust so that way everything sits nice and flat the way it's supposed to. I'll even brush the threads a little bit just in case. And I won't worry about putting any penetrating oil on those threads. I really don't want them to slip. I'm just going to, this way they'll just maintain the friction. Okay, so now you want to make sure that the flat part goes toward the grass and that the bevel part goes towards the motor. So we're going to put it on like that. I'm going to take this little guy, put him on there. Now, once again, if I was doing this not for a lesson, but just doing it just to get the job done, I'd just be hitting it with this. I could actually hold on to it with my hand, and I could just hit it with the socket, and it would just go and be done. It doesn't hurt to hold on to it. It's going to, it wants to turn this way, which is just going to put you on the blunt side of the blade, so it's not going to hurt you. And it's actually quite easy to hold on to these while the impact gun does its job. Way easier to hold on to it that way than it is to even try to hold on to it when you're doing it with a socket. So now we're going to do this in reverse. We're going to put that block back in here, but we're going to do it on the opposite side of the blade. So we'll put that block in there. Now make sure that you can turn that. Okay, so now I'm going to hop over on this other side. This is where you have to be really careful because sometimes the block can fall out. And when it does, it lets that blade loose real quick and it can come back. And if you got your hand anywhere in the way, it can hurt your hand. So I'm just going to tighten this. It all snugged up here. Okay, then you want to get in a nice position, get everything nice and really snug. Make sure that's in a good position. Now this is what's really easy to do. It's really easy to put your hand right here to hold on to the mower. And if that slipped out, your hand's going to be right here. And that sharp part, this part right here on this one, is going to come right back around. I guess I won't do it that way. But this blunt part, that's what I mean, right? This corner right here, that's going to come back around and it's going to get you right here on the fingers. So you got to be sure that that block is good and stable. Okay, so give it a try. There we go. And you can see how that blade's just going to stay right there. It's nice and secure, and then I can put the hurt to it. And, there you go. Give it a good snug and then a good, and then you know you're good to go. Then you clean up your mess. Remove your block. And I'm going to leave this disconnected, but then don't forget to plug in your spark plug wire and put new gas in. I'm going to leave this out for now. I've got some other things I'm going to do with this. I'll put that aside, and that's all there is to it. So good luck in first of all getting your mower blade off, and then good luck in sharpening your blade. And happy mowing. We've got almost 70 degrees here in Washington State. I'm just a little northeast of Seattle. We've got a couple of really nice spring days, and I think we have about 4 more coming up, almost into the 70s, which for us right now this time of year, that's fantastic. Okay? See you in the next one.